Hello and welcome back to Boring Dad Gaming, where today we're going to be carrying on with Arcadie, Second Born. Ended on a bit of a cliffhanger last time. Our sister was killed by Stanislas, who seems to be wielding Aether, or at least able to wield the weapons that only our family is supposed to be able to wield. So there's obviously some sort of mystery going on there. Let's find out what happens next. Ariana is dead. Your sister is dead. Your entire family is gone. I'm frozen in place. The Queen is defeated! Someone bellows. Cheers rise all around you. Ecstatic yells of soldiers once loyal to you, to your family, to your sister, to your kingdom. Stanislas turns to watch you, gaze dark and steady, sword hanging low next to Ariana's body, her blood dripping down his blade and his own drawing sharp red lines down the side of his jaw. You're alone, surrounded by enemies. I'm going to die too. I'm outnumbered and alone. You freeze in place, despite yourself, a rush of pain flying through you. A loud buzz, a ball of white light bright enough to blind you. Yelps of surprise around you, meaning you mustn't be the only one affected. It washes over you, and as its heat licks your skin, you start to lose feeling in your every limb. For a moment, your very sense of self subsides. No sensation in your hands, arms, legs, no scent, no sight. Just a rippling wind of buzzing energy over your entire being. Then it's gone, and your consciousness leaves with it. You fall. Nothingness. The taste of ash in your mouth. Dark pain squeezing your entrails and blackening your senses. You startle awake. Early morning, shades of green and brown all around you, the scent of grass in the air, the song of birds in the trees. You're in a forest, on horseback, and someone is holding you up, one arm around your waist. I turn around and take a look at who they are. You swivel around, as much as you can while on horseback, to take a look at the person behind you. It is... it's Cyril then. Cyril looks back at you with warm copper eyes. You're awake, he says, a small smile upturning his lips, no real mirth behind it. Are you hurt? Where are we? In the woods between the castle and Fort Queenscliff. His voice is subdued as he explains, It was better to remain hidden. I didn't want us getting dispatched by a few skilled archers. What happened back there? He doesn't respond for a while, perhaps focusing on steering the horse forward through the rough forest terrain. I'm sorry, Boring. Ariana did not make it. A pause. She was killed by Stanislas. My unit and I rushed him before he could do the same with you. The best course of action was to retreat and regroup in the fort. Wilfred shouldn't be far behind. Did we just leave her body to Stanislas, just as we did with my parents? I'm afraid so. We didn't have the time nor the opportunity to do otherwise. Getting you out of there was my priority. I'm sorry, Boring. I don't think I'm hurt. That's good. I didn't spot any wounds, but I'm glad you are indeed uninjured. I have nothing more to say. You pass through the forest, your mount climbing obstacles deftly despite your combined weights on its back. Boring, Cyril says, and his voice is low enough that, for a brief moment, you think he's whispering to prevent pursuers from hearing him. Let's stop for a moment. The horse grows still, and Cyril slowly dismounts. You follow him, fighting off the dizziness that still makes the world an unsteady place around you. Once down, you use the opportunity to take a good look at your commander. He's pale, much paler than usual, and when he seats himself between the roots of an elm tree, eyes pressed shut, you notice the trail of blood under his left arm, staining his metal breastplate. Why didn't you say you were injured? You chastise him, coming closer to kneel beside him. I didn't want to worry you. He raises his eyebrows, looking straight forward instead of at you. I might have been in too much of a hurry to get Stanislas away from you, he says. Of the two of us, he was always the better swordsman, I suppose. He gingerly raises his injured arm, and when his face contorts with pain, he stops, pressing his armpit closed instead. There was no time to think or hatch a plan. He continued, voice rougher. He finally locks eyes with you, and there's a hurt, tired edge to them. I just need a minute, he says, to catch my breath. A branch snaps somewhere. You're not getting a minute. You realize you have no weapon at your disposal. Your scabbard is empty, dead weight at your hip. You look at Cyril, but his attention is worriedly drawn elsewhere, to the side, towards the source of the noise. His own sword is strapped to his side, however. Don't let him run off this time. You hear a voice, unnervingly close through the trees and leaves. Whoever it is can have Cyril. I take his sword. You grab his sword and prepare yourself to face off against the enemy as soldiers emerge from the thicket. There you are, the one in the middle says, voice vibrating with triumph, not breaking his stride as he draws his weapon. His accomplices do the same, and you find yourself facing 3 opponents. That's Sir Cyril over there, the man says. Take him out before he tries anything funny. I place myself between Cyril and them. I will defend him. You quickly step to the side, placing yourself between them and Cyril. They'll have to pass through you to get to him. The man in the middle snickers, and without another word, the group takes slow steps towards you, looking to encircle you. You know you should not let them. You quickly stride to the side, rushing to the soldier the furthest to the left. He must not have expected your approach, as he casts round eyes at you when you strike up at him. He fumbles a parry. You go right through, and you kick him right in the stomach, backwards towards the leader of the group. He evades his stooge crashing into him, letting him fall into the grass while he faces against you, eyes narrowed and sword at the ready. The third one uses this opportunity to see if he has a shot at taking down Cyril while you're otherwise occupied, dagger in hand and a smirk baring his teeth. I will defend Cyril. Guard up, you stride sideways again, and your direct opponent just watches you warily while you swiftly close in on the dagger-wielding soldier. He can only startle while you slash him down, unable to parry your strike with his dagger, but you almost end up stricken down yourself by the last standing soldier. You swivel around, recovering your footing and facing him squarely. Alas, your head spins and your vision goes blurry. You grip your sword tight. You can't allow yourself to lose. A roar catches your attention. From the thicket the 3 soldiers had emerged from, 5 more appear, but this time their arrival triggers a rush of relief in your chest. It's Wilfred and his men. Quick and efficient, they dispatch the last standing soldier and kill the others lying on the forest floor. Wilfred approaches you quickly, worry and anger lining his every feature. Are you all right? He asks, too loud. You nod, and his eyes flit to Cyril still on the ground. Wilfred, you're a sight for sore eyes, he says, voice shaky but cheery. Wilfred goes to help him up. We have to leave now. Stan's men are right behind us. You reach the fort after several hours of snaking through forests and laying low in thickets. You're thoroughly spent, every muscle aching and head throbbing when you finally enter the dusty courtyard. You get off your horse and you blink, the world spinning around you. You feel sick to your stomach, and while you manage to fight back your overwhelming queasiness, you can't prevent your left knee from buckling under you. You barely manage to avoid crashing with all your weight to the floor, ending up sitting down on the ground while Wilfred rushes to your side. I'm fine, just give me a moment. Enemy soldiers! Someone shouts, and you hear Wilfred stand up next to you and get his sword ready in one swift move. Come... Oh, hang on. Who's speaking? Alright, I think it's just a soldier. Calm down, people, a voice calls from the gates. You squint back, manage to pierce through the haze and make out several mounts. Stanislas's soldiers atop them. We're just here to talk, the same voice promises. You don't recognise it. It can't make out the face of its owner anyway. There's no need for violence. Speak then, Wilfred snaps. We just wanted to see the little prince back home safely, didn't we, lads? The man jeers. After all, he left in a hurry, leaving his queen of a sister face down in the dirt, lying in her blood back in the royal gardens. A burst of laughter echoes, and Wilfred sneers, "I suggest you leave before I order the archers to shoot you dead." "Oh, there'll be no need for that, Sir Wilfrid. We'll be leaving now. Seems the little prince is too overwhelmed anyway. Probably afraid of his own fast-approaching demise. Stanislas has killed his sister, the queen gifted by fate itself. What's a snivelling brat to do when his legend of a sister utterly failed at taking back a measly castle?" More laughter. "Last warning," Wilfrid declares. Fine. We're looking forward to meeting you again, Sir Wilfrid, along with the little child you're stubbornly following." Your heart pounding hard in your chest suddenly quietens. Its beating is now slow and steady, a strong rhythm that flows through you, soothing your every nerve. Your vision abruptly clears. There is no shred of lightheadedness left in you, and you can easily stand up. There is a slow buzz right under your skin, coursing through you, the feeling that you've come to associate with aether, raising goosebumps in its wake, making your hair stand on end at the back of your neck. It's not painful, however, quite the opposite, in fact. It runs through you, chasing off fatigue and hurt, leaving only one very clear idea in your mind as you turn towards the gates. Will you look at that? The child has learned to walk. They're still laughing. They should be silenced. "Enough!" Wilfrid exclaims. "That's it. You asked for it." Indeed, they asked for it. You move your feet, or do they move of their own volition? You're not sure. You don't care. You can't care, as your body is carried forward, step after slow step, focus gathered on one very simple idea as you eventually find yourself at the gates. Wilfrid is saying something behind you, but your eyes are riveted to the soldiers smirking down at you. Clouds gather overhead. The smell of ozone fills the air. Rain will surely follow. "Got something to say, little boy? Or perhaps you'd like to surrender? It would save everyone a lot of trouble, you know." Rain, lightning. The thought coalesces in your mind, a swirl of words and sensations, and as you blink you feel, you know, in that instant, deep in your bones that you can make it happen. And so I do. Your hand moves slow upwards towards the sky, thunder overhead answering your call. The man in front of you seems a tad perplexed, maybe a little worried. As he should be. You drop your hand parallel to the floor, aiming in his direction. He opens his mouth, probably to throw some disparaging remark your way. And when lightning strikes him down instead, mere feet away from you, with blinding light and rending noise, scorching the earth and the very air you're breathing, it's nothing unexpected. He had to die, and now he is dead. That is all there is to it. When horses neigh and scramble away, their riders screaming and running off in fear, it snaps you awake. The man who was laughing at you is no more. There is only a charred corpse and dust in his stead. The clouds overhead let out the water they'd been holding in ropes of cool rain. You're suddenly drenched, and you feel colder than you've ever felt before, a tremor passing through your arms. You turn around. Wilfrid is staring at you, half in shock and half in awe, and Cyril, several feet behind, has much the same expression. Blood pounds again in your skull, loud, and your energy drains back out of you. You spiral down, consciousness receding to the darkest corners of your mind. You fall. Dud-dum, heartbeat. Dud-dum. Loud, steady in your ears, though muffled as if underwater. You look around and there is only darkness, the utter absence of anything to see, anything to feel. You're trapped in an unwanted state of rest, quieting your mind to protect it from the hardships you must still face. You push against it, unravelling the layers of unconsciousness, shrugging off the weight of fatigue pulling you down, and you choose not to take heed of the pain that warns you not to step out of this cocoon of nothingness. You cast it all away and emerge. When you next draw a breath, it stings, like the first breath you've breathed in hours, cool air expanding your lungs and burning your throat. You cough yourself awake. I just want to see who's talking, so I do the right voice. Let's assume it's Cyril. "Boring," a voice says. Footsteps ring against wooden flooring, closing in on you. You sit up on instinct, coughing still, and a hand at your back soon steadies you. Eventually you manage to breathe easy again, throat still aching, but nothing preventing you from inhaling the smoke-scented air around you. You blink your eyes open, wiping away the dampness at their corners that blurs your vision. "Here," you hear next to you, and a glass materializes before you. You take it, wincing at the shock of cold against your burning skin. Still you need to drink, and you bring the tall glass to your lips, gingerly tipping it back. Water washes inside your mouth, and in that moment you could swear you've never tasted anything sweeter. You swallow it, feeling it cool down your insides, bringing back a semblance of calm normalcy to the harsh sensations that keep attacking you. The empty glass is softly pulled from your fingers, smooth surface slipping against them, and you follow its path, turning your head to the right. Blonde hair, worried hazel eyes, and against a skin paler than it should be. "Cyril," you say, and your voice is raspy in your throat, as if dragged over gravel. You attempt to clear it. The hand at your back remains there, a comforting touch that somewhat quiets the pounding heartbeat in your temples. "How do you feel?" he asks, voice low as if not to hurt your sensitized ears. "I'm fine, I think." Your words tremble, falling from your lips in a strangled, wavering noise, making you sound like a liar. He blinks, blonde eyebrows drawing closer together. He stands up then, warm hand leaving your back and cold air replacing it with sharp intensity. "Are you leaving?" you ask in a tired breath. "Not at all." He moves towards a nearby chair and proceeds to pull it closer before sitting, now at eye level with you. Eventually, you lie back against a pair of pillows. You look around at the wool cover draped over your body, at the closed window looking out into the night, and at the fireplace filling the room with warmth and the scent of burning wood. Cyril's blonde hair glows orange in the dim firelight, and you notice the sling supporting his left arm. He must see you looking at it as he explains, "It's to help with my wound's healing." "Does it hurt?" "Not as much as seeing you in this state." His cheek dimples faintly. "My wound will heal in time." His subsequent smile is slow, calming. "There's no need to worry about it. We're in Gyron," he says, stretching his back against his seat, "south of Fort Queenscliff on our way to Goldridge." "Goldridge, the capital? Why are we going there?" Copper eyes shine in the dark, a searching glow that focuses on you for a long moment. "You're the king now." Wood bursts into sparks a few feet away. Cyril looks aside, gaze landing on the window in the darkness beyond. "While Ariana might have forgone it, there is much to do for a new monarch in the capital." "Ariana." The mention of her catches you off guard. Ariana. The mention of her catches you off guard. How do we feel about this? I think, I don't think we were quite that close. I'm going to say my fists close over the covers in a tight grip. "I'm sorry, Boring, about Ariana." "Thank you, Cyril." You give a slow, apathetic nod. He nods compassionately. "There's another reason why we're heading to Goldridge," he resumes. A pause, and he asks, his tone careful. "Do you remember what happened, where we reached the fort after the battle?" "I'm not sure what happened." Your memory is hazy, and between your pounding headache and your swimming vision, you have a hard time differentiating dreams from hazy recollections. "You summoned lightning itself down from the skies upon your enemies," he recalls, with a sort of quiet awe. "You had the very elements do your bidding." You turn to face him and find his rapt gaze on you, the ever slightest arch to his eyebrow. "I always believed the tales in the books to be hyperbole, exaggerations, but I was wrong. What you seem to be capable of doing is—" He sits back, his hand slipping out of your grasp. "That's why we need to go to Goldridge. Nathaniel lives there. He knows more about Aether than anyone." Now, Ariana mentioned Nathaniel as well, so let's just remind ourselves who Nathaniel is. You hunch forward a little. Who's Nathaniel again? "With the exception of seasoned Aether users, of which there are, unfortunately, none left, he is the most knowledgeable person on all matters related to Aether. Far more knowledgeable than either Wilfred or myself, at any rate." I'm to be king? I was never taught how to be king. Cyril crosses his legs, looking a moment at the muddy tip of his boot. Few know how to be, but I believe you have what it takes to be one, a good one. You are sensible, compassionate, courageous, and more powerful than any of us can comprehend. I'd say you're off to a good start, he concludes with a small smile. I'll do my best. He nods too, a small smile at his lips. I have no doubt of that. Ariana's really gone, isn't she? You stare down at your hands over the covers. They've stopped shaking, warmed up by the wool under them. Your gaze flits over to Cyril, and you find melancholy lining his features. I am afraid so. I am truly sorry, Boring. I'm glad she's gone. Not that one. I'm all alone now. Aren't I? You muse. A cold, dark emptiness growing in your chest, threatening to swallow you whole. You're not. Cyril's instant reply. He looks over at you with so much sincere care in his eyes it makes your heart skip a beat. I'm here for you. Cyril stands up. I'll let you rest, Boring. We will be departing in the early morning. Erin and Finn are right outside your door, he says, coming closer. Should you need anything, please let them know. You blink as he kneels beside you, honey eyes suddenly very focused on yours. Something passes in your shared gaze. You're not sure what, but it clasps your heart in warmth, blood running faster through your veins. You see him drawing a breath, his lips parting to speak, but he shrugs it away, standing up again to cast a quick smile your way. Rest well, Boring. I will see you tomorrow. He strides across the room and softly closes the door behind him. You wake up when steps sound nearby, stopping right next to you. A smooth finger traces your shoulder, then a hand holds it gently, while a familiar voice calls your name. Boring? You blink up at Cyril and he smiles down at you, blonde hair backlit by the early morning glow coming from the opened window at the back of the room. Good morning. He stands straighter, eyes gliding away, smile fading. We have to leave soon, Boring. You press the palm of your hands over your eyes, rubbing at them a bit more forcefully than necessary. It births sparks in the back of your vision, and when you remove your hands, you need a moment to see again. Cyril is still right there, standing by your bed and watching you, a hint of melancholy to his gaze. You sit up slowly and spin around to put a foot down on the wooden ground. The other foot follows, and you push yourself off the bed. You draw a breath, standing tall, but then your sight fills with stars and you're not sure which side is up anymore. An arm quickly snaps to take hold of you, steadying you and putting an end to your swaying. Your head continues spinning, but you're aware that you're still standing upright thanks to Cyril's quick reflexes. I've got you, he says. Let's get you seated at the table, all right? He lets you find your footing, walks you towards a wooden table and helps you sit down. When you're done shaking, the last remnants of your dizzy spell, you recognize in front of you what you surmise passes for breakfast in these parts of your kingdom. Bread, ham, some fruit, haphazardly placed on a polished wooden tray. It's clear you're in no castle, no fort, no nothing. Cyril sits down next to you, still with the same despondent honey gaze. It's not much, but you have to eat something. You haven't eaten anything in 2 days. Let's give our strength up, begrudgingly eat a little. Groggily, you seize a piece of bread and bite off the smallest chunk you can manage. You munch on it. It tastes like nothing. Cyril watches you for a beat, then a tightening passes over his expression as he manoeuvres his left arm into a new position, closer to his body. You note the absence of the sling that had been previously supporting it, an absence that might be at the root of his clear unease. He notices your gaze on him, and a real smile soon adorns his face. Afterwards, he disappears to fetch a servant who assists you in getting dressed. They help you into nondescript clothing, in a brown shade so ugly it could have offended you had you not been as drained as you are. And you're quickly whisked away, led into a heavily guarded coach where you find Wilfred waiting for you, a frown lining his brow. Cyril climbs into the coach after you and closes the door. Your Majesty, Wilfred says as soon as the coach starts moving, dragged forth by the mounts at its helm. Are you feeling better? A little. He nods, watching you carefully. Soon he turns away, pulling back the garnet curtains to survey the surroundings from his window. Cyril has sat himself to your left, and when you look his way, he gives you a reassuring smile. We're headed to Goldridge, aren't we? You ask. Cyril nods, body turning your way to more easily look you in the eye. Yes, we are. Lots of things to be done in the capital. How long would the trip take? 3 to 4 hours, I gather. 4 hours later. The trip is quite uneventful, even allowing you to... let's read a book, because our book learning's taken a bit of a hit. Politics and that's our skills. Politics and tactics, 52%. We want to get that a bit higher, I think. So see if we can read a bit more. Swordsmanship's come up. Aether charge is halfway. How are we looking? We're bold. Bold and friendly are probably our main traits at the moment. We've probably... how do you go away? Oh dear. Okay. All right, hang on. Never mind, I had to go scroll to the bottom and hit return. So look at our relationship. So we've only really got Wilfred and Cyril now, and they're both like us. But let's read a book anyway. Wilfred emerges from his silence to declare, "We're here." Cyril uncrosses his arms, shaking himself out of the light sleep he had let himself slip into, and then pulls back the curtain completely on his side to peer outside. Indeed we are. You shuffle closer to the window and watch as grey and white towers emerge above the horizon, standing heavily around the tall ramparts that encircle your capital, Goldridge, at the edge of the Caspian Sea, and its long sea-washed walls and sun-kissed roofs. An impregnable fortress, or so the legend says, as it's been raided time and time again, never to fall to the invader. Goldridge might be the jewel of your kingdom, but you're not overly familiar with the city. Your mother disliked it, you remember. For what reason, you can't exactly say, but she seemed to prefer being away in the royal castle, far from the bustle and noise of the capital. You hear the city gates open in your path, while Wilfred remains immobile, unperturbed in his seat. Cyril springs to the side, pulling back the curtains a little further to let in the sun's rays, and look out into the beige stone-paved road. I haven't been back in a while. His voice is wistful as he watches the road unravel under your ride. When you finally arrive at the palace, stepping first into the vast impeccable gardens, then through the waxed wooden doors, before entering huge white halls lined with grandiose paintings and ornate mirrors, the staff is shocked when informed that you are here, bewildered when Cyril tells them to ready the royal suite for you. They zip away to carry out their tasks, not dawdling except to cast furtive and curious glances your way, dissuaded from asking questions by the stern glare Wilfred shoots any who linger. Cyril swivels around, a smile plastered across his tired face. It will take some time before your chambers are ready, Boring. He holds onto his left arm with his opposite hand, an involuntary gesture as he continues, You could perhaps have a real meal in the meantime. Visiting Nathaniel should take priority, Wilfred interjects, arms crossed and brow set. But when he looks at you, his expression softens. But should you need to eat or rest first, we could postpone it. Let's visit Nathaniel first. Cyril gives a nod. Who shall be accompanying you? I don't want to sideline Wilfred. Let's go with Wilfred. I'll go with you, Sir Wilfred. Wilfred nods, heading back outside. The ride to Nathaniel's abode is rather short. While his house, a tall and narrow white and wood building, with a roof adorned with yellow and orange glazed terracotta tiles, is a little away from the city centre, very close to the ramparts. The driver seems to know all the shortcuts in Goldridge to get you there in the shortest time frame possible. There are 3 soldiers with you, and Wilfred instructs them to remain outside while he knocks on the front door. He does not wait for an answer before pushing it open, inviting you in with a simple bob of his head. Wilfred closes the door while you look around the cosy living room you've arrived in. The fireplace is lit, and the wooden heavy furniture looks well taken care of, apart from the books peppered and strewn all over it, on the sofa, the table, and at the edge of the sunny window. Nathaniel, Wilfred calls, walking towards a staircase near a row of cupboards. We're coming up. You climb the spiral staircase after him, not stopping at the second floor that seems to lead to a bedroom, and instead heading to the third and last floor, where an imposing wooden door, reinforced by black iron bars, blocks your way. It does not deter Wilfred, however, as he produces a large key from inside his jacket and slides it into the door's lock. It opens with a loud creak, and, as Wilfred pushes it open, a smell of fresh herbs hits you, made unpleasant by the burnt incense and an undercurrent of something acidic permeating the once clean air.
"Oh, if it isn't the scourge of Coltland himself,"
a willowy voice sneers as you enter.
"I wouldn't have minded not seeing you again for another couple of years."
The voice comes from a sitting figure, its back to you, as it pores over stacks and stacks of yellowed notes, a pen in its left hand. You can tell it's a man when he turns around, eyes still glued to the book clasped between his fingers. His silky black hair stops short of his shoulders, and his soft, elegant features draw a sharp contrast against the disdain that radiates off him in waves. The man lifts his brown gaze from his tome to drill it into Wilfred, and he asks pointedly, not a shred of friendliness in his tone,
"To what do I owe the pleasure of this visit?"
"Nathaniel." Just his name, uttered in a cool voice, sounds enough like a threat for the man to close his book, a narrowing to his eye and a displeased pucker to his lips. "This isn't a cursed courtesy call." Wilfred lifts a hand towards you. "This is your king, Boring." Scorn leaves Nathaniel's features to be replaced by shock. His gaze flicks to you, eyes wider and mouth slack. He looks back at Wilfred, blinking rapidly.
"Where is Ariana?"
The mention of her is sudden, unexpected, and the abruptness of it brings her back to the forefront of your mind, making you feel my heart clench painfully in my chest. The commander doesn't answer. He doesn't need to, as Nathaniel's gaze flicks to you again, his disbelief morphing into outrage. "Ariana is dead." Hang on, who's talking? Nathaniel's disbelief morphing into outrage. It's Nathaniel talking, isn't it?
"Ariana is dead,"
he says out loud, as if to hear the words, making their sound resonate in the air and give them more credence. He theatrically drops his head back, his book coming up to press against his forehead.
"You let Ariana die, didn't you?"
He snaps up, letting the book hit the floor as he leaves his chair, eyes wide and a short, shrill, humorless laugh falling from his lips.
"You let Ariana get herself killed, you absolutely floundering idiots!"
"You're testing my patience, Nathaniel."
"Am I?"
He shoots back, taking a step forward.
"Ariana had the gift. Do you realize how long it's been since that had last happened? It's been 332 years, Wilfred."
He gestures wildly, angry at the bookshelves around him.
All of this, is only useful as fire fodder now."
"Boring has the gift." That stops Nathaniel in his tracks.
"Don't be absurd. He can't have the gift."
"And yet he does." A glimmer of deep curiosity, or perhaps selfish interest, sparkles in his eyes when he next sets his brown feline gaze on you.
"Does he?"
he mutters. "Don't speak about me in the third person. I'm right in front of you," you say. He looks at you, sizing you up, but not saying anything for the moment. He bends at the waist, not breaking eye contact while he plucks his book off the carpeted floor.
"Well then, introductions are in order, I suppose,"
he says, standing back up.
"I am Nathaniel."
He gives a short bow.
"I am pleased to finally make your acquaintance, Boring. Or should I say, your Majesty."
"Some manners, finally." He gives a shrug.
"I'm afraid manners are not my forte."
"What is your forte, then?"
"I am what passes for an aether erudite these days,"
he replies with a long smile, eyes wandering to a nearby chair heavy with multicoloured cushions. He pushes them aside, causing their fall, while he hoists the seat away, putting it down in front of the one he'd been occupying, before you and Wilfred made your entrance. He regains his own seat, then looks at you invitingly, a hand showing you the empty chair in front of him. You take a short breath, walking decisively towards the open seat and lowering yourself into it. Wilfred moves with you, settling 5 feet away to your right, leaning against a bookcase. Conspicuously enough, you note his hand comes to rest on his hip, a few inches away from the handle of his longsword. Nathaniel pays him no heed.
"So, your Majesty,"
He begins, a toothy grin at his lips.
Please, tell me everything.
Hands clasped, he leans forward, closer, and you smell ginger and incense in his clothes.
And I mean everything. No detail is too insignificant.
Where do you want me to start? This could take a while.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. For you, Your Majesty, he purrs. I have all the time in the world.
Don't waste our time, Nathaniel, Wilfred interrupts. Your Majesty, he says, his tone far less sharp. Ariana gave you Aether 2 weeks before the battle, didn't she? She did, you confirm. But how do you know that? She told me, is his simple reply.
Right. Ariana shared Aether with you. Nathaniel cuts him off. Through her blood, I presume. What happened next?
It became painful to stand next to her. Before the battle, I started feeling pain whenever I was near Ariana. She said she'd gathered too much Aether. Maybe that was the reason.
Uh-huh.
Then we attacked the royal castle. We fought Stanislas. You stop. You remember. The smell of blood, the noise of metal rattling, and the heat of Aether scorching explosions. The crack of the wall as your sister had been catapulted through it. Stanislas used a shield. The words stumble from your lips almost by themselves. Our family shield. Ariana's Aether attacks bounced off of it. Nathaniel crosses his arms.
Alcaeus' shield.
His head shakes a little. I know who that is? My ancestor's shield, yes, you confirm. Alcaeus is famous for having managed to conquer most of Cortland some 600 years ago, and in the process making the discovery that their mountains had veins of lutetium ready to be mined. Your family sword and shield are the only weapons remaining of what all the kingdom of Arcadie was able to gather, however. Changing the subject, he inquires,
How was Stanislas able to wield the shield? It's made of lutetium. He shouldn't have been able to touch it, let alone use it.
I thought you were the one with the answers.
Why ask me?
Why ask me? I thought you were the one with the answers. He scoffs, not really amused.
I'm not a clairvoyant, despite what some people might think.
Turning a sharp gaze on you, he adds,
But you, I'm sure you know.
He leans forward in his seat, stops as Wilfred seems to catch his eye. He sits straighter.
You were there. Think. Was there anything that Stanislas was using to hold the shield?
You visualize the scene in your mind's eye. You see him, Stanislas, black hair, midnight blue clothes, Arcadie's uniform, shield and sword in hand, and up his arms and hands a thick red band of fabric. He had some red fabric around his hands, you proposed. There's nothing else that I could see anyway.
Red fabric,
He repeats, gaze sliding away to the wall behind you. It wanders still over the colourful furniture around you.
Fabric can't do anything to help him wield that shield. The only thing that could have possibly helped.
His lips snap shut and he flashes a glare Wilfred's way.
Serene's body,
he says suddenly, in the tone of a parent reprimanding a child.
Where is it?
In the royal castle, I presume, is Wilfred's dispassionate answer.
Wonderful. And so is Ariana's, I suppose.
Why?
Your power, he answers, brown eyes back on you. Your ability to use Aether. It runs in your blood. Literally. I don't know how Stanislas knows that, however. He never asked me a single thing about Aether.
He mimes a roll of cloth on his hands.
The red fabric around his arms, probably drenched in your mother's blood.
Blood-soaked bandages are enough for him to use my family's heirlooms?
Enough for him to be able to wield them for a short enough time, yes. Again, I don't know how he even knows this.
He stops, thinking a moment.
How long did it take for him to kill Ariana?
Nathaniel, Wilfred warns.
What? I did say I needed to hear every single detail, didn't I?
The fight did last a while. I'm not really sure.
It's
fine, Your Majesty. Wilfred's voice is calm, reassuring. It turns colder as he continues, You don't have to humour his every idiotic question. Anyway, you say, a sigh at the top of your lips. You're feeling more tired by the minute. The shield seems to be able to hold Aether, and Stanislas was able to use it as a weapon, sending your sister through a wall. That's how he was able to win the fight. Words get harder to utter. somewhat, a tightening in your throat preventing you from speaking further. You see her again, Ariana, bloodied and weak and broken, afraid as she realizes her life is at an end, stunned as she is pierced through the heart, dead as she crumples to the ground before you. Impressive.
Impressive.
Nathaniel, Wilfred warns again, only to be ignored as the man urges you on.
Please, continue.
There's nothing left to say. You only realise you've been squeezing your fists shut when they start radiating pain up to your elbows. You unclench them and breathe in, deeply, swallowing around the ball in your throat. Ariana died.
Oh, my condolences, by the way.
Thank you. He stays silent as you collect yourself.
Still,
he says,
none of this explains how you supposedly acquired the gift. Did anything else happen?
After Ariana. You pause, think about forcing the word out, and change your mind and continue. There was a flash of light, and I lost consciousness. Nathaniel watches you, staring at you like an enigma he's working on unravelling. His gaze drifts to the pane of glass nearby, windows overlooking the street and part of the city. From here, you can see a beautiful square of blue sky, soft clouds rolling slowly across the horizon, over your city's gates and, further away, the crystalline sea. A dagger appears in Nathaniel's hand. You blink, and the tip of Wilfred's sword flashes to Nathaniel's neck, threatening to slash his throat. The dagger clatters out of Nathaniel's fingers, and his hands rise, palms open and empty.
Calm down,
he says, an edge of repressed panic in his strained voice.
I just need some blood to...
Back away.
But I do need...
Wilfred advances, his sword's edge creeps closer to Nathaniel's neck, and the latter instinctively leans backwards, eyes wide. Back away, he orders, voice as cold as ice.
Fine!
Nathaniel huffs and pushes on his feet, sliding the chair backwards with a long, ear-splitting screech. His hands are still half raised as he regards the commander with a prudent glare.
I wasn't trying to harm him. All I want is...
Wilfred's voice is low when he answers. I know exactly what you want. Try anything like that again, and I'll have you choking in your blood. Nathaniel grimaces.
Charming.
Stand down, Sir Wilfred. He's withdrawing his sword when you speak those words. You would have me do nothing while he draws a weapon on you?
You heard him. Stand down, Sir Wilfred,
Nathaniel parrots, not bothering to hide his smugness. Wilfred parts with a glare as he sheathes back his blade in one smooth motion. You turn back towards Nathaniel. What did you want to do, Nathaniel? Wilfred answers instead. He just wants your blood for his collection. You have no obligation to humour him. Ariana didn't. Your mother Serene didn't either. Nathaniel slides a glance his way.
Following in dead people's footsteps is hardly a smart choice, but what do I know?
He clasps his hands together with an audible clap.
So, what I gather from your little story is pretty simple. Ariana transferred Aether to you through her blood. By doing so, she created a pathway between the two of you. Through it and through her death, either all the Aether she was holding at the time was transferred over to you, or, far more interesting hypothesis, which you both seem to believe, the gift itself was transferred to you.
Ariana was out of Aether when she died. You stop. The word gets stuck in your throat like a ball of grease about to be set on fire. When the fight ended, you say instead, coughing away the feeling. He chances a glance downwards, and by following his gaze, you realise he's eyeing the dagger again. He quickly changes focus, however, leaning sideways to rest against his chair's armrest.
There's an easy way to find out if you have the gift or just some Aether, provided Wilfred doesn't interfere,
he says, looking the commander's way.
It's a matter of minutes.
You're not touching him, Wilfred retorts immediately.
I wasn't planning to. I don't need to, he replies, looking straight at you with glimmering eyes. What I need is for you, Your Majesty, to close your eyes.
He leans a little forward, closer, and Wilfred snaps to attention, his shoulders tense and thumb in position to push his sword out of its scabbard. While I do trust him, he's overdoing it. So Wilfred, you say, and his piercing gaze snaps to you, it's fine. A minute frown wrinkles the corners of his eyes, but he drops out of his fighting stance and stands straighter against the bookcase. He keeps watching every one of Nathaniel's moves, though.
Quiet,
says Nathaniel, purposefully ignoring the commander.
Your Majesty, close your eyes.
You do.
Focus,
you hear him say softly.
Concentrate on something simple. Breathe in slowly.
You do.
Breathe out. That's it, just focus on that.
There is no noise in Nathaniel's study except for the distant cry of seagulls that can be heard through the closed windows, and the steady roll of waves and their crashing against the city walls. You hear shuffling close by.
Good. Now, don't open your eyes. Tell me what you feel.
You keep breathing slowly, deeply, and you perceive, a little too close for comfort, some source of heat. Your right temple tingles unpleasantly, like under the feet of a dozen scurrying ants. I feel a tingle, warmth.
Good. Now, don't overthink it. Just focus on the tingling sensation. It's not harmful, even if it's uncomfortable. Focus on that and on its warmth.
You start hearing your own heartbeat in your ear, and you feel dizziness creeping in, a vague sense of nausea swirling in your stomach as you force yourself to focus harder on the feeling.
The warmth is yours for the taking, he says slowly, so take it.
You're not sure what he means, but you try to do as he asks. Take the warmth, focus. You breathe in, pull it in closer. It spreads over your face, unpleasantly hot. The tingling migrates to your whole skull, focusing at its base, at your nape, and your fingers curl over your clothes as goosebumps sprout over your arms. Warmth, slick, thick, verging on burning, spreads inside you. Your breathing grows quicker, and you grit your teeth, fighting back the feeling of oppression on your whole head.
So, you do have the gift.
You open your eyes, blinking as you find an empty globe of glass right next to your nose. Nathaniel withdraws the orb again, spins it between his long fingers. How can you tell? He puts the orb down on the nearby desks, an impish smile at his lips.
Any member of your family can use aether, or could, I suppose.
He hand waves his slip.
But only someone with the gift can actually gather aether.
He points to the orb.
This was an aether lamp. You drained all of its aether out.
Oh. Your vision blurs. You try blinking it away, but can't.
Anything that makes you feel that tingling sensation, that warmth, can be a source of aether. Ariana used to say that really strong sauces gave a metallic taste right at the tip of her tongue. She said that forests, seasides, and lakes were great for gathering aether. Fire, too. You should give it a try.
It pulsates at the base of your skull and spreads very quickly, a migraine like you've never felt before, a vice gripping your temples and squeezing them in an unrelenting grip. You press your eyes shut, hoping the absence of light will make it go away faster.
Your Majesty, are you all right?
My head hurts.
Ah,
Nathaniel says.
That was to be expected. He's not used to handling aether.
You hear Wilfred clicking his tongue. You should have warned us.
Slipped my mind. He'll get better. Bring him back whenever he does. I'll teach him a few tricks.
Calling the ride back to the castle uncomfortable would be an understatement. Small mercy, you're able to pull the curtains back and enjoy some darkness, which does alleviate your headache a bit. Wilfred orders the driver to go slow, which also helps a little. When you reach the palace, Wilfred takes you up to your quarters, which have been readied in the meantime. You don't look around and simply crash into your bed. You quickly sink into blissful oblivion. And that's where we're going to leave it for today, I think. So, we have taken up the crown. We are now wielding aether and perhaps learning how to use it properly, which is quite exciting. So I hope you've enjoyed this next episode of Arcadie Second Born. Not much more to say, really. Just enjoying it still myself. Interested to see where the story goes. And hopefully you are too. So if you did enjoy it, please do hit the thumbs up button on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. That would be great. Let me know in the comments what you think about the story so far. And I'll hope to see you next time for the next instalment of Arcadie Second Born. Bye for now.